All right, welcome back to SportsLine, everybody. In just a couple of minutes, we're going to get my buddy Tim Benz from WEEI Radio in Boston to talk about the Tom Brady situation with the Patriots. We will get to that momentarily. Right now, we want to talk to you more about what's going on with the Vanderbilt baseball team. Nothing new to report right now. They're still taking on Virginia, obviously, in Game 2 of the College World Series final. They won last night 5-1. Again, a win tonight would clinch a second straight national championship over Virginia, ironically, for the Commodores. So, again, we'll keep you updated as far as that goes. Meanwhile, Tom Brady in New York City today, but he was there on a business trip, not for pleasure. Tom Brady appealing his 4-game suspension for his alleged role in the deflation of footballs in the AFC Championship game that the Patriots won over the Indianapolis Colts 45-3 at Gillette Stadium. This has been since late January, early February. This story has taken over the sports world. And right now, as we said, Tom Brady suspended for 4 games. He would miss the first month of the season for the defending Super Bowl champions. A lot of people are debating whether or not that's a fair punishment. Should it be a punishment at all? You're welcome to chime in on that if you'd like at 737-7767. Again, just a couple minutes, we're going to have Tim Benz from WEEI Radio in Boston, a good friend of mine. We go back many, many years. Get his thoughts, any updates we have on the Tom Brady situation. And again, you look at where the Patriots are in the pantheon of NFL football teams. Obviously, they're a big money maker for the league. Tom Brady, one of the elite stars in all of the National Football League. He's going to go down in history as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I don't think there's any question about that. He's one of only 3 men to quarterback 4 Super Bowl champions, to win 4 Super Bowls, along with Terry Bradshaw and Joe Montana. Obviously, credentials for the Hall of Fame. But it seems like he's very worried about his legacy and how this could tarnish it, this whole Deflategate situation. He swears up and down he had no prior knowledge of the footballs being altered in any way. He argued his case today in New York. I believe it took some 9 hours to go through. Commissioner Roger Goodell was there. So we wait to see if Brady's suspension will be reduced. Will it hold up for 4 games, or will it be wiped out completely? Now, I don't think that's going to be the case. But you may have heard or read Adam Schefter from ESPN, their NFL insider, saying that Brady will fight to the bitter end to get this entire suspension wiped out, whether it's 4 games, 2 games, however many games, because he swears he did nothing wrong. So we'll wait and see how that goes. This could go on for a few more days, but hopefully it'll get wrapped up before training camp. The Patriots opened the season in the first Thursday night game of the year. As you probably know by now, the reigning Super Bowl champions normally open up at home on Thursday night football to open the NFL regular season. And they'll be taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously a very tough test for them, even though they'll be playing at home. So will it be Tom Brady or Jimmy Garoppolo under center for the Patriots? We shall find out. Do we have Tim? Okay, right now, as we're waiting for Tim Benz from WEEI in Boston, more fallout from yesterday's Vanderbilt win over Virginia. We're going to talk to one of the unsung heroes, or hear from one of the unsung heroes of the Commodores, the little man, Ro Coleman. Steve Lehman caught up with him last night after the game.
How nice was it to kind of snap out your funk there and get a big hit there late in the game?
Well, I wouldn't say it was a funk because I stayed confident. Just saw a good pitch and drove it. Felt good, but give all credit to Carson and the team for just competing. Carson threw a great game. Their pitcher threw a great game. We played great defense, and we kept competing at the plate, and were able to scrap some runs together.
Seems like this lineup, you look up and down. Obviously, it's the College World Series. You're not going to get hit every time up, but it seems like there were some guys who were 0 for 1 for something like that for the series, and tonight they got the hits to come through. How confident is this team when you have 1 through 9 hits hitting the baseball?
Hey, I heard you go to me, but I wasn't there, I guess.
To
Sorry.
stay confident, because you don't have confidence, you can't play this game. And no matter what happens, we always going up there very comfortable, confident, relaxed, and just play the game like we know we can.
And situational hitting, it seems like that's been the mark of this team, whether it's a two-out hit, whether it's a big sack bunt, whatever it is, that's been key all postseason long. How important is that for this ball club?
It's very important, but people think that it's kind of, we get nervous in those situations, but we prepare for that. We train, and when we train like it's the bottom of the ninth, two out the last, 2 outs and runners on base to help us prepare, because we know we're going to be faced with situations like that during the season. So it's like it's not new to us at all.
What's the mindset like going into tomorrow night now?
Just playing the tournament, taking it day by day, not thinking about nothing, pitch by pitch.
There's a possibility, I would imagine, that you'll see Waddell, who threw a great game against you guys last year. What do you remember about what he brings to the table, and will you look back on that game at all?
Well, probably will look back on it to get some scouting, but it's a new year, so we're just going to have to come out there and play our game like we know we can.
And you were out there on that field dogpiling last year. What would it mean to do it again for a second time?
Well, it'd be kind of surreal, but blessing from God if we're able to do that.
Thanks, Rob.
For those of us.
All right, that's Roll Coleman of the Vanderbilt baseball team. Again, one of the unsung heroes of this team the last couple of years. Had a big hit in an RBI last night. All right, as promised, my good buddy, we go back a long way, a couple of decades. Tim Benz from WEEI Radio in Boston. We're going to talk about the Tom Brady situation. First of all, Timmy, good to hear from you. Good evening, my friend.
Good to talk to you again. Yeah, many stops along the map, right?
Too many to count. All right, Tom Brady in New York City today appealing his 4-game suspension. Roger Goodell was there. Representatives from the NFLPA were there. I'm sure you heard what Adam Schefter had to report today out of ESPN, that pretty much no matter what happens, whether the suspension gets down to 2 games or stays at 4 games, Brady plans to fight this thing to the bitter end. He wants his entire thing wiped out because he still maintains he had nothing to do with footballs being altered in the AFC Championship game. Is that the vibe you're getting?
That's what I've been feeling. That's what I've been hearing. And there's been a lot of reports like that from Adam and others. Now, a lot of people, I think, are doing some assuming on behalf of Tom Brady, or assuming based on maybe the occasional nudge, nudge, or wink, wink that's coming from his legal team. But there's been nothing directly said from Brady on that front. He's a competitive guy. I think he sees this as a competition for his name, for his reputation. I do wonder, though, if, when the footballs start to fly and there's actual games being played, if they can't get an injunction, or if it comes down to I might miss a game somewhere along the way and I want to cherry pick the game that I'm going to miss, his competitive vibe will come into play as to how he wants to serve that 1-game or 2-game suspension. But I do think that, John, right now he is inclined to try to take this to court unless it's wiped out, which I do not expect to happen.
Well, obviously, Brady has the money to do that, but just a couple of weeks ago, his boss, Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, basically, he went from saying, we'll fight you till the bitter end to, you know what, it's time to stand down, we accept our punishment. Where's the caveat? Where's the divide between Brady and Robert Kraft right now?
Well, I don't think there is one. And I think, John, that part of the reason he was so inclined to back off from a team perspective is that he thought there would be a payoff on the back end from Goodell when it came to either A, recusing himself, which he didn't do, or if he didn't recuse himself, he'd reel back the suspension to 2 or 1. I always had the belief, the suspicion, that handshake and that hug that was seen on Twitter all over the place from Kraft and Goodell at the owners' meetings, the birthday party that they attended together, was basically saying, look, I'll do what I can if I stay in. I think I'm going to stay in as the guys hear the appeal. And Kraft said back to him, I can't stop him from going to court if he wants to. And they seem to have an understanding there. But, yes, the stand down from Robert Kraft is something that did not go over well with Patriot fans at all.
Yeah.
They hated it. to the tune of 90% disapproval rate for Robert Kraft for doing that.
Wow.
So I think that Brady is feeling some external pressure, perhaps, if he's paying attention to the news and seeing that Patriot fans want him to fight this battle on their behalf.
It's funny, Tim, because that leads me to my next question. You and I worked together in Syracuse. We're used to that basketball fan base. We worked together for many years in Pittsburgh. The Steeler fan base and the sports fan base there as a whole. Now you're in Boston, so you're no stranger to fan bases that have high opinions of themselves. Obviously, it seems like the scuttlebutt from Patriots fans is, our Tommy did nothing wrong here, and Goodell should just back off.
Who's this Ted Wells anyway? He's the bad guy right there. That is very much the take, that as the Wells report has been looked at further and further, there's more and more to dissect and pull apart, and Patriots fans have been damn good at doing that. They've had no shortage of defense attorneys lined up, or science experts lined up on behalf of Patriot Nation to pluck apart the Wells report and everything that goes on into it. So, and the other thing that, those analogies that you draw, John, between Syracuse where we're together, Pittsburgh where we're together, not only am I used to working with ravenous fan bases, I'm also used to working with a scandal or two.
Yes.
Be it a suspension, be it a probation. So I've seen this kind of reaction as well, where the fans look at it very differently internally as opposed to the way the rest of the country views it. I don't think that when the dust settles here, most people are going to look at Tom Brady outside of New England and say, well, he can't get into the Hall of Fame, or he's not a good quarterback, or this smudges his entire reputation. They'll remember it. But, I think that's always going to be there, even if he does win in court. People will remember him as being the guy who deflated footballs in part. They'll still remember him as a legendary great quarterback, but they'll remember this even if he wins in court, I think.
Tim Benz joining us from Boston here on SportsLine. There's so many things to look at here, Tim. I mean, number one, the Wells report, where he says, well, it's more likely than not likely Brady knew about it, which equates to what, a 50.1% chance that he did versus a 49.9% chance that he did, that he's telling the truth and saying he wasn't involved. But you look at the Patriots' reputation of quote-unquote cheating in the past, it seems to have a lot to do with the current decisions that are going on, because if Goodell just wipes his hands clean of this and says, well, we don't have a lot of proof, so we're going to let it go, the fallout from non-Patriot people, and there are a lot of them, as we know, we lived in a city that really did not like the Patriots at all, the fallout would have been huge, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. He's garnered some support, which he hasn't had for a long, long time, from just about every other corner of the NFL map now that he's come down hard on the Patriots. Nobody outside of New England likes the Patriots, and everybody in New England knows that. It has a lot to do with success, but it's also got a lot to do with the Spygate history and the fact that Belichick is an eminently dislikable guy and flat-out jealousy for Brady, the golden boy with the good looks and the supermodel wife. So,
right.
The hatred is layered on many levels. So when you see Goodell really put the screws to the organization and to Brady, he did win a great deal of approval from just about every other fan base. Now, at the same time, I do think that a lot of other fans out there anticipated that 4 would go back to 2. I think they'd be satiated if they just saw Tom Brady on the sidelines for a game or 2. Some might balk if it gets rolled back to 1. I certainly know the place that we lived out in Pittsburgh wouldn't mind that, since that's the opener. They'll just be happy that Brady isn't playing against them.
Right.
But, there will be a lot of other cities that may complain that it should be at least 2. But by and large, I think so long as he still serves at least a game, he's going to have people who say, all right, you saw it through. Even if he loses in court, John, I still think he's going to gain support from other cities because he did what he was to do, according to their fan bases,
right,
and put it to New England this time around. And if the courts don't see it that way, well, he can just throw his hands up in the air and say, I tried. We just lost in court.
So what's your prediction? You think this gets knocked down to 1 or 2 games?
I do. I think he will. Well, let me put it to this way. I think that Goodell is willing to knock it down to a game or two. But if they're having this discussion, or if they had this discussion tonight, that Brady's saying, look, I'm going to court regardless, then why bother reel it back if you're Roger Goodell, right?
Right.
If you're going to go to court, you might as well stick with it at 4. If, if there's no give back, no guarantee that you're not taking it to court, you might as well stick it at 4. I don't know. My guess right now is it's going to court. Maybe Goodell, just to look magnanimous, does that and reels it back to 2 or 1. But if it is 1, even 1, I think Brady does take it to court.
Tim, we appreciate you jumping on short notice tonight. Thanks so much, man, and great hearing from you.
Yeah, good talking to you too, John. We'll talk again soon, I hope.
We will. I promise you that. Tim Benz from Boston joining us on the latest on the Tom Brady situation. We're back after this.